Hello, my name is Laurent Colson. Chinese people called me Luohan. I've been living with Chinese furniture and studying Chinese furniture for almost 30 years now. First in Hong Kong and China and then Paris. We are going to explore what Musée Guimet and Hotel d'Heidelberg have to offer in the matter of Chinese furniture. Just follow me. So we are now in front of what we consider today as the archetype of Ming style furniture. This is made of huanghuali, which is a tropical hardwood, which is very fashionable today. And it has clean and very minimalistic line. Those are maybe the most modern look armchair in the collection of Musée Guimet. And with those, we understand that Ming-style furniture are so fashionable today. Actually, they influenced, at the beginning of the 20th century, the Bauhaus, the Art Deco style, the Bauhaus, with big names of the Bauhaus school. And actually, at that time, the designers, they were looking for new shapes to be able to make them with metal tubes. And the first to succeed is Mr. Breuer with the Vasily chair in 1925, which is the first chair made with metal iron tubes, bented tubes. So those chairs was possible to make with a machine without expensive workload. So they were affordable for many people, not only for rich people, but also for average people. If you look at this pair of armchair, you can imagine that you can make them with iron tubes. So, and actually, this was very straight members. You know, there is no curve. This could be made just by a machine. So this has inspired and gave a new ideas to the designers of the European designers in the beginning of the 20th century. Those designers, they thought that in Chinese style, everything was there already. And later, in the 30s and 40s, it has inspired a lot of Scandinavian designers. So today, it sounds like something very modern, like something actual. So we might say that this style, less than Ming style, is more our modern style. Now, when this style really originates in China, maybe it was not in Ming Dynasty. Most probably, this style originates between the Tang and the Song Dynasty, in the 5th dynasties. In the 10th centuries, we have paintings which shows already this kind of furniture. So most probably, instead of calling this style Ming style, it's better to call it Song Dynasty style furniture. This is the most classical style of what is called today the Ming style furniture, the sloping style cabinets and the chuanyi, the round back armchair. And this line, most probably, this detail originated from the Tang Dynasty in the maybe 7th, 8th century. The details of the dragons, the two confronted dragons in the Jouy head opening, this is maybe something of the 18th century. So most probably those pieces of furniture were made in the early Qing dynasty. So after Ming dynasty, most probably during Kangxi period. It's a classical shape. So it's a shape which has been made for centuries in China, not only in Ming dynasty. but those shapes have been made up to the 20th century. So let's see something interesting. So now we are in front of a square table. So this table has a very classical Ming, what we would call today Ming style shape, with a round legs, the very square plate, and all the stretches. It's what is very typical is those spandrels at the corner. This is very typical of this kind of table, and it's make so that each leg has 3 spandrels. This kind of architecture actually comes really from architecture. It's like a column holding a roof with all the dogong. In Chinese architecture, we call this element, those spandrels, we call this dogong. And this is similar to architecture. It shows that really the woodwork of this style of furniture with round legs really is coming from the building of houses. On the contrary, we can think as a Chinese house in the same way, because it is not attached to the floor, it's not attached to the ground, as a table which is just resting, lays on the floor with legs, as many legs as necessary, and the roof. Let's see also some porcelain where you can find the same kind of pattern than on this table. You can see the rocks here and the flowers and the kind of simplicity of the design is really the same kind of simplicity, and you find the same kind of stylization of a pattern on the tabletop. So this is a piece we can really say this is Ming Dynasty. We have elements to say this is Ming Dynasty. So we are here in front of a painting table. This painting table is the basic Chinese furniture. This kind of table have been made for almost a millennium in China since the Song Dynasty. But today, we say this is Ming style. But actually, this starts, we have examples in the paintings from the 10th century. We have a Yuan dynasty, so a 14th century pieces also which was excavated in a tomb. And this is also a beautiful table made of carved red lacquer. And this table of the Yuan dynasty, you could believe it's made in the 18th century if it was not coming from a tomb. And this kind of table was made until the middle of the 20th century in different material. Here we have a very beautiful lacquer pieces from the Kangxi period. It looks like Ming, but actually it's Kangxi. All the elements of the ornamentation tell it is Kangxi. First, it shows a landscape, a swamp landscape with birds and flowers. And among those birds, among those flowers, we can see lotuses leaves, buds, weeds, have different kind of birds, as you can see, in different positions. But the composition of this landscape is typical from the early Qing dynasty. There is a big rock, it's organized around a big rock, which is off-center. The composition is completely asymmetrical. There is a side which is full of things and a side which is more empty. And also what is exceptional and typical of the Kangxi period is the borders around the top plate here, which recalls the archaistic style, recalls the Bronze Age. And those flowers on the spandrels and the legs, which are a little bit in the style of the early Ming dynasty and not of the late the late Ming Dynasty, the flowers are very, very thin. The hemp are very thin, just one stroke. Here it's thick, it's generous. So this very important painting table was probably made for a very high official, if not for a member of the imperial family. We are here in front of a very important, exceptional Ming Wanli chest, and it was used by the emperor, obviously, as it is covered with 5-clawed dragons. Those dragons are typical of the Wanli reign. They are very thin, like snakes, covered with very small scales. They have a pig nose. All the hair is packed together. And the claws, the 5 claws here, you can see they are just organized like a star, five branch stars. The background of the lacquer is made with a technique which is called qianqi. I'm sorry if my pronunciation is bad. So it's all covered, all the background is covered with this technique of carved and infilled lacquer, infilled with another color of lacquer, which make it very resistant. Just notice the little border of flower here. This is also typical from the Wanli reign, very different from the border we have seen on the Kangxi table, which with thick hemp. Here it's very thin hemp, just one stroke for the hemp. The lock system is also interesting. All those gilded bronze elements are also here just to adjust perfectly the lid on top of the box. And this, if you compare to porcelain of the same period, you will find the same kind of dragons, all the same elements. So it's easy to put this kind of pieces within a culture, within a period of time. So this, we can say, it's really from the Ming Dynasty. So now we are in front of a very elegant piece. This is an incense stand. You would hold an incense burner on the top with all the pots where you keep the tools to take care of incense. This stand most probably is from the around the middle of the Ming Dynasty. This is in the style, actually, of the Song Dynasty. It calls after the Song style, and the technique of the lacquer with very thin mother of pearl is typical of this period. It was very fashionable at the time, and it has been exported in Korea, in Japan, in many Asian countries where they liked this kind of pieces. And then it was made by the Japanese and the Korean in Ryukyu Island. There was a big industry of this kind of pieces. Also, this table is a good example of the influence of the Chinese style on the European style for the legs. You can see with those, what we call the 3 curved legs in China, this reminds us of the Louis XV, for example, or cabriole, what we call the cabriole leg. We can see on the top, this scenery actually is a gathering of immortals. There looks to have very important people on the middle, and they play the weiqi, they play the Chinese chest. And below the Chinese chest, you can see there is an incense burner with on a stand. So very often in Chinese furniture, when there is an ornamentation, there are clues to how the pieces were used, what they were used. It's like a notice of use. So here you have a lot of different characters which are gathering and with present. On the base, you have a full plum tree in full bloom. Of course, the plum tree is a symbol of spring. It has flower, it's the first flower to bloom after winter, even before the leaves. So it's a good omen for rebirth and also maybe for longevity. So we have reached now the end of our small journey into the Ming furniture. We have seen many things. We have seen mainly two different kinds of furniture, hardwood and lacquer. And I guess now it's a little bit confusing. But during Ming dynasty, many different kinds of styles were coexisting. You have the temple furniture with very sophisticated carvings, mostly around the lotus flowers and the curved legs, big altar tables or sutra cabinets. You also have the countryside furniture with soft woods covered with a thin layer of lacquer to protect the woods. But to me, and you have, of course, the hardwood furniture, which is, for me, the urban furniture. But the top artistic furniture were the imperial lacquer furniture. Those pieces were especially designed for the imperial family. Each piece is unique. And the imperial household used to appoint designers, workers, to make a piece. The projects were made, drawings were prepared. Those drawings were given to the chief of the imperial household or the emperor himself. And when they agree on the design, maybe some prototypes were made, and then they started to make the piece, which would take several months or years to finish. And we will see how this evolution continue in the Qing dynasty, but with a very high level of creativity. It was necessary at that time, as a dynasty change, to change the style of furniture as well. I thank you very much to have followed me, and see you next time.